Pariahs of the civil service. That's how a retired Chicago police sergeant characterized the public's attitude towards cops, according to the Free Press reporter Olivia Reingold, who spoke with him about the sky-high rate of suicides in the Chicago Police Department.
Reingold says escalating crime and violence, an overworked and underpaid police force, plus dwindling support from the public, have led to a slew of deaths. 53 Chicago cops have sadly taken their lives in the last decade.
After talking with former and current officers, city officials, and mental health advocates, Reingold says they all point to progressive policies that, quote, demoralize and defund the police. Olivia Reingold joins us now. Olivia, thanks for coming on. So let's get right into it, pointing out that those progressive policies are apparently leading to a demoralization for police officers. Can you break down some of those policies that they identified and how they're impacting the day-to-day?
Sure. So at the Free Press, we were able to confirm we got the most exhaustive list yet of the officer suicides that have taken place over the past decade. So previously, the best estimate was around 30 suicides. We were able to find that 53 officers have taken their lives since 2015. And when you look at the data, the rate of suicide nearly doubles after Black Lives Matter. And so when you talk about those policies, it really goes back to the death of Laquan McDonald in 2015. That created this huge infrastructure of oversight and reform, which a lot of cops told me they do support, that the police department is not immune from corruption or bias and that they do support reform. But what they have gotten is at least 6 oversight agencies. There are now 22 civilian councils, one for each police district, to further scrutinize the police department. And there's even a non-citizens advisory council so that non-citizens, regardless of immigration status, can further monitor the police.
You know, I think it's interesting because some folks will look at this and say, well, we do need some oversight. We do need some oversight on police departments, and there's truth to that. But where do you feel in seeing all this reporting, did it go overboard, so to speak?
I think that what has happened to the Chicago Police Department is not rooting out bias. I think it's rooting out all action, not just possibly biased actions, but really anything where cops feel like all they can do is sit in their cars because they have been barred from car chases. And now for the past few years, they've been heavily discouraged from pursuing suspects on foot. And so where did it go wrong? I think that the system became punitive. It became more about punishing the police and kind of milking alleged misconduct for everything it's worth in a total torrent of lawsuits instead of reforming them. And actually, at the Free Press, we were able to uncover a pretty astounding detail, which is that Black Lives Matter has a direct role in shaping oversight for this thing called the consent decree, which is a federal reform mandate. And one of the enforcers of that is Black Lives Matter, which believes in defunding, if not abolishing, the police force. And so, like I said, I think where this whole ecosystem went wrong is it became really punitive and meant to demoralize and really gut the police instead of reform it.
Olivia, one of the other things that I hear from police officers outside of the specific policies is this attitude that has ticked up in popularity of decrying the entire police force as bad, as a negative influence in American life, whether it's through chants like pigs in blankets, fry 'em like bacon, all cops are bad, defund the police. Did any of the officers that you spoke to identify this sort of broader cultural movement as an impetus for the demoralization as well?
Oh, Absolutely. And not just the demoralization, but I mean, the trauma of 2020 looms large for every police officer I spoke with. These are a lot of brave patriots, if I can say, who do not think that the police are perfect. And a lot of the people I spoke with are minorities themselves and have complicated feelings about the police. And during the summer of 2020, they were, I mean, the treatment they described to me was, I guess I knew that this was happening, but it was really hard for them to endure. And especially because it's not, there are parts of that cause that they sympathize with. And this is having a real impact on mental health. I actually was able, it didn't make it into our story, but I was able to find this shocking write-up of this officer who, after, the big thrust, like the height of 2020, it was the following weekend. I think it was in June. He had been working his 12th day in a row, all at least 12-hour shifts, and pulled into his garage, was so exhausted. I guess he had a push to start car. I don't know. I think maybe he accidentally fell asleep, but he had been coming from policing riots, and I guess he fell asleep and the car was loitering, and he accidentally poisoned himself with the fumes and died that way. And so anyway, that didn't make it in, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not just, suicides are the most stark example of it. Like that's the ultimate, um that's the end here, but there's a huge spectrum in which, the ways in which officers are suffering from the stress, physical issues, alcoholism, problems with family members because they feel like their family members don't get them anymore. They feel like the public hates them, that everyone has turned on them. And so this whole atmosphere has really taken a toll on them personally.
Yeah, and Olivia, I worked in small, medium-sized, large cities, and I worked actually the police beat, and I can certainly understand some of what you're saying because you've had direct contact with these police officers and really getting that firsthand account, doing some phenomenal reporting here. Talk about though the recruiting because even in small, medium-sized cities, not as large as Chicago, there is a serious challenge with strong recruits. Can you talk about the ripple effect of not being able to find recruits now because there's just not enough of a draw to become a police officer?
Totally. So Chicago, like most police forces in most major cities, is having a staffing crisis. I believe the count is that they're about 2,000 officers short of where they would like to be and previous staffing levels. And that's not unusual. I think almost every major police department in the country is really taxed, and they are relying on overtime shifts because of this. And so officers themselves, it's kind of a catch-22 because a lot of them feel like they need to take these overtime shifts. I mean, sometimes they're pressured to, their days off have been canceled, and the day just they have it continues with overtime. But that is further making the police force, it's a huge struggle because then the officers who are on the job are exhausted themselves, and so you're not necessarily getting the best out of the officers that you already have. But yeah, a lot of police departments, because they are so understaffed, are relying on overtime to get by.
All right, Olivia, thank you so much for your insightful reporting. We look forward to having you back on the show. Up
Thank
next,
you for
Trump's pick for Surgeon General is ruffling some feathers. We'll have more on that coming up.